Thanks for joining us on this special edition of CTV Morning Live today. We're talking about the issue of sexual abuse against children, and we've been talking to some experts this morning. We've brought them back on now for a panel discussion. These experts have a wealth of knowledge on these issues, and we're going to put questions to them right now that we've been getting from our viewers this week. So I just want to reintroduce who we have. We have Rick Goodwin from the Men's Project, Noni Classen from the Canadian Centre for Child Protection, and Ron Ensom. And I want to make it clear that any of these issues could have come from anyone, and we all know that. Kurt is standing by live in our online area, and he's going to field us those questions of come in via Twitter and Facebook. Kurt, what do you have for us?
We have a number of questions that we want to get to, and I think Noni would be best qualified to answer this first one. Very interesting. Can viewing child pornography escalate to sexual assault? Simply viewing child pornography, can that escalate to sexual assault?
Okay, so we're going to have Noni. Is that a question that you feel comfortable that you could answer, or is that one perhaps best for Ron?
It may be best for Ron in terms of the clinical side of that.
The question is, yes, can viewing child pornography, as we saw in that story a little while ago now, escalate to sexual assaults, to rape, to something even more than that? That's what the person I interviewed said he feared would happen to him. Is that something that is possible?
It can, it doesn't always.
Okay. Do we see it commonly, or?
I think it's more common than we might believe, and it's very, very hard to track.
Okay. Let's go to another question there. Kurt, what else do you have for us?
This question comes from a woman whose son was sexually abused by his father. And the whole panel can examine this. She says by the time her son got the courage to file a report, the police told him there was not enough evidence or witnesses. So her question is this: is there anything at all my son can do, or is he just another kid who gets to live with this and everything he witnessed as a child growing up?
All right, Kurt, thanks for that one. Rick, can you answer that question?
I'm sorry, can you give me a real simple
sure. Is there anything at all my son can do, or is he just another kid who gets to live with this and everything he witnessed as a child growing up? This is from a mother who says her son is 19 years old now, but was abused as a child.
Well, I guess the first thing is to make a division between a justice response to the son and his victimization and addressing the son's emotional needs in terms of potential trauma recovery. Her son was abused. He may well be traumatized by it. If he is, in fact, got some issues, then there are resources out there. And it may be a bit of a trick for her to line up the son with appropriate therapy. But yeah, trauma recovery is possible, and it happens every day. So I would be very optimistic that there are things she can do.
She did try to file a report by the time her son, she says, was old enough to find the courage to come out and say something, and they went to police. Police had told them there was not enough evidence or witnesses to be able to file a report. Is that something that can happen, Ron?
It can happen a lot, and more often than not, when the police say there isn't enough evidence, they're correct. Or the police will consult with the Crown, and the Crown will say we have no reasonable chance of a conviction, and we need to think about what the impact, perhaps, of a failed prosecution would be on this child. There's a very, very, very important take-home message here for parents, and that is, as a parent, while you would like to see justice take place, a charge and a conviction, to place your hopes, in a sense, for your child's recovery on a charge and a conviction is a dangerous hope.
It seems very heavy.
Well, not only is it heavy, but if it doesn't happen, a child can feel that once again they have failed.
That they'll never get that closure?
And a parent can feel that they have failed. The issue, I think, for the most part, is, as Rick had said, this child needs good support, the support that can be guaranteed, as opposed to the elusive possibility of a conviction in court.
And Noni, with CyberTip, just quickly before we get to the next question, there is options with cybertip.ca. You can report it, but then there's resources to put you in the right direction.
Absolutely. With CyberTip, certainly they can come in and report, and we can provide resources, direction, as well as educational resources if that's necessary.
And can it be even for more than just online? Or is it just online?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Therefore, what happens is we forward on reports to law enforcement as well as to child welfare if there's potentially a child in need of protection.
Okay, let's go to Kurt for another question.
This next question, Annette, is from Twitter, as a matter of fact, and it's kind of a question I was thinking of asking myself. Can abuse be a pattern? So an abused child grows up. Is there a possibility of that child becoming an abuser because of the pattern?
Ron, let's put that question to you. Can abuse be a pattern? An abused child grow up to be an abuser?
Yes.
And how often do we see
And
that?
that's another important reason for supportive clinical resources being available. Not only can they help with a child's healing and a parent's healing, but it is a huge prevention effort. Many, not all, but many children who experience sexual abuse or physical abuse for that matter incorporate this pattern of behavior. It's driven partly by anger, it's driven partly by habit, it's driven partly by the elements of the social world in which they live. And they can in turn become a perpetrator. And I think when you speak with some perpetrators who have decided to talk openly about what happened to them and what they have done, they will tell you that for a period of time they wondered if they would become like the person who did terrible things to them. Some don't, some resist it mightily, and some succumb.
Interesting. Okay, let's go back to Kurt for more questions and comments.
We got a lot of questions today on this subject and previous to today, Annette, and we're getting some nice comments as well from people who work in this building, people involved in our panels and our interviewers and so on. But this one is nice. It's wonderful that you're doing this broadcast. So important that awareness is out there about this horrific crime. Thank you for taking on this issue. Well, to be honest with you, that's one of the main reasons why we're doing this today. Taking on the issue is what needs to be done, I think, to be effective and move forward. We'll take a break. We're dealing with child sexual abuse on CTV Morning Live. The show continues after this.